All right, welcome to the podcast. Beyond the offer letter, how talent acquisitions are sharpened by future HR and recruiting. This episode today is going to be going over the fast-paced, talent-driven market with the effects of making sure that we can continue to help our staff grow. We're here with Brad Fetterman, CEO of Performance Point LLC. He'll unpack the values, work-life balance, transitions, career growth demands, help HR leaders, recruiters, and to make sure the operation continues to grow and develop. He has a lot of insight, a lot of communication, a lot of educational things that he will be bringing to the table. That's going to be very exciting to help organizations grow. Just before we get into the question part, something that I wanted to kind of go over with you that kind of caught my eye was a healthy culture needs to build a strong foundation of values. Our values are under care, and it's an acronym for y'all. Would you like to go into that, Brad, and kind of explain to us what that is?
Sure. So we actually help companies develop uh, cultures, and we use values and behaviors to be able to do that. The values and behaviors that we build cultures for the clients on are values and behaviors that are important to their customers and keeping their brand promise. All right, but also um, guide and help employees so that they can work effectively, efficiently together without a lot of rules and regulation. I mean, the truth of the matter is that hierarchy and rules used to guide people. But the world's changing so fast and so furious um, that everything keeps changing.
Yes.
And you need something for people to hang their hat on. And in that case, it's really culture. Culture should be the stable force in a company, and it should guide employees not just to how they behave with each other, but how they behave with each other, make decisions with each other in a manner that supports your customers, helps your organization grow and thrive. So we want cultures that help organizations thrive and individuals thrive. And so CARE is our culture. It's the acronym for our culture. We don't just share this with clients. That's our program we use internally, right? We try and eat our own cooking, if you will. And so every week we take one of those values and we visit that value in our weekly meetings. We meet Monday mornings. And it's got a couple different purposes, but one of the key purposes is to revisit our culture. And we do an activity that supports our culture. So it's about collaboration. We do an activity that talks about collaboration, and we apply that to each other, to our customers. It might be about empathy, because one of ours has to do with empathy. And so we the other week we did an activity about seeing the world through our clients' eyes, and we used a structure. So, because all too often clients ask things that seem unreasonable, right? Or they ask something that you can't do, and employees will tend to go, why are they doing that? And my answer is, let's talk about that. Why would they be doing that? And so when you actually put a structure in place and you ask people to think about it through the lens of the client, they go, oh, now I know why they're asking for that. And I want our people, and I know our people want to be able to think like that, right? So we visit that on a regular basis. We call them culture workouts or micro-learnings. You can call them huddles. But we live our culture, and CARE, actually see it behind me on a sign back there on my table, is the mnemonic we use that references each of our values. In fact, watch this. I'm going to get it. And I'll put it on the screen so you can see it. How's that? So, and they're all defined.
There you go. Yep, exactly what's on your website
And we hold
that I wanted people to be aware of. So it's very important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, we hold people accountable to them, and ourselves accountable to them, I should say, because we really hold each other accountable to them on a regular basis. It's important. We are in a people business, so collaborative is important, right? We have responsibilities to each other and to our clients, and so the next one's called Above and Beyond, and it really is about the fact that we care about both results and relationships. The one after that is right-minded, and that's really about ethics, honesty. I would rather tell a client, no, we shouldn't be the ones to do that. That should be somebody else. It's not our sweet spot. Or talk to a client and be honest. Hey, we wanted to get this done for you by this date. Here's something we're running into. It's not going to happen. I'm telling you way in advance so we can plan for it. Our goal is to be great partners, to be honest, to be ethical. And then obviously, I mentioned empathy earlier, but that's the fourth one. So really our culture revolves around those four values. And we measure them, we talk about them, we work them, and we hold each other accountable to them, basically. So yeah.
That's amazing, and that's why when I went through your website and saw that, I really wanted you to share that information
Thanks.
because I think that's very important because of the changing tides of the business and where we're headed in the business and
Yeah,
how things are changing so quickly.
yeah. No, I think values and culture, behaviors, um, if you do it right, they are the glue and the stability to an organization these days. And surviving without them is dangerous. It's an accident waiting to happen, and I've never seen a pretty accident. So, yeah.
I agree with you there. That's very true. Going to go into, you kind of touched on this a little bit, the evolution of top talent acquisition from then to now, generational influence, shelf life, paycheck to paycheck, or purpose to cultural driven. So, Brad, what is the biggest challenge you have seen that top performers are looking for today's compared to 10 to 15 years ago?
I think there are two types of top performers that you have to look at, and I think the challenge that we have is that most organizations are reflecting a set of values and expectations of years past. They're recruiting and thinking about things like they did in the 1990s and 80s. They may use 2025 technology, but the mindset is old, right? And I think that's the difference. So let me tell you what the mindset I think is of the two types of employees today. One is really simple. There's the kind of employee that's basically saying, the high performance employee is basically saying, I have a short window. I have a short window because AI is here, technology is here, and I know people are getting replaced. So I need to go somewhere where I'm going to do really well for myself. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to future-proof myself a bit around technology and AI. And if the company won't offer me that, then I'm walking, right? And it is pretty straightforward. I have a short window, and I need to make sure I'm tech savvy, and the company better get me there. That's one kind of employee. And that's a tough one to deal with, right? The second kind of employee is tough for a different reason. They're trying to redefine what organizations offer and what loyalty is about. And people say there's no loyalty that exists. And I would argue that's true to some degree, but I would argue loyalty does exist. It's just defined radically differently. So here's what most great employees want. First thing they want is they want a healthy culture. They are not going to stand for going somewhere where they're treated poorly. And it doesn't matter if that's the exception. They're not paying attention to the way you treat them when things are going well. They want to pay attention to the way you treat them when there are problems. Because that's the only time culture really matters. It's the only time values really matter. You can't say, I respect employees and say, I do it. Well, I do it 98% of the time. But when the sky is falling, I cuss at you and yell at you. No, that's not, then you don't have a value of respect, right? So they're looking for a healthy culture. That's the first thing. The second thing they're looking for is they watched their relatives and their older friends give their lives to corporate America only to be kicked to the curb when times got tough. And so their perspective is, I'm not sacrificing my entire life for you. I watched other people do that who are now underemployed, and complain about the greed of corporate America. Right now, not every company operates like that, but unfortunately, people will look at the economy and companies in a broad brush kind of manner, right? If they know an uncle or an aunt worked till they were 48 years old, kept being told that they were great, you couldn't run this place without you, you're fantastic, and then COVID happened and they knocked you to the curb, then every company they deal with is going to be just like that company, because that's what their mindset is. So they want a company that's going to support a work-life integration, meaning I want a great work life, but I want a great personal life, and I want a company that supports that. Their job should help me not only have a good work life, but your job should help me have a good personal life, right? And so if you're gonna invite me into your company, and it makes it difficult for me to have a good personal life, that's not going to work, and I'll quit and go somewhere else, right? So that's the second thing they want: healthy culture and good work-life integration. Third thing they want purpose and they want meaning in their work. I am not here to make you a buck. I'm not here to make you rich. I'm not here to make lots of widgets. Those are byproducts. I'm here to do something that has value, that has purpose, that I'm here to make a difference. And if you can't define what that looks like for me, well, then I shouldn't work here, because I should be doing something that has value to it. And then the fourth thing, and unfortunately I'm going to kind of, not completely, but I'm going to kind of quote Kanye West: faster, better, stronger.
Okay.
All right? Faster, better, stronger. He has a song with similar words to it. I can't even talk today. If I graduate from college or high school today, I am most likely going to work minimum of 50 years, probably 60 years. If it's a decade from now, that'll probably be 60 to 70. People are already starting to work more into their 80s. The numbers keep climbing because we're living longer and our finances last shorter periods of time. So I want you to think about that. 50 to 60 years, but probably going up to 60 to 70 years in a decade.
Correct.
But our skill sets are only lasting 2.5 to 5 years, and that is shrinking. It used to last for decades, but it's shrinking.
Yeah.
Which means that
Very
I'm
quickly.
most likely going to have to recreate myself 24 to 26 times in my working life. I can't afford to go stale. This is a marathon. So every day I come into work, you, Mr. or Mrs. Employer, had better be making sure that I'm more competitive today than I was yesterday. Because if you're not, I'm leaving and going somewhere else where I will be. Because I can't afford to go stale and be told that I don't have a skill set and I can hire somebody half your age for half your price. I need to remain competitive. Grow me every single day, right? That's the fourth thing. So, healthy culture, work-life integration, work-life balance or integration, purpose and meaning, and growth, growth, growth. Those are the four things that top employees want. And if you're doing all four of those things, you're probably not having the problems that many of the other employees we work with have, because they're not doing all those things. That's competitive in today's environment.
I agree. I mean, you have to be constantly growing, and that's what I always, why I even started doing these podcasts, is to bring people to the realization that these people will go somewhere else. They want to be, as you see, seen, heard, want the opportunity to grow. They want to show value. They want to give back to the company. Like you said, it's not about the almighty dollar. It's about, hey, show me what I can do, how I can be more successful, and how I can continue to grow myself. And are you going to give back to me as I'm giving to you?
Yeah.
And those are the two pillars of what needs to happen nowadays that I think that isn't truly happening. And I think companies like yours and others that I'm going to be speaking with are doing that. They're showing that companies need to foster that growth. They have to foster the relationship. They have to realize the work-life balance that is very important to the people nowadays. And that, especially like you're talking about, the people that are now older, they don't want to get stale, but they also don't know what direction to go, and they need a little hand holding. They need a little direction. They need a little help in that focus of going, hey, you're doing this now, but it's heading this direction. What do you think would best benefit you?
Yeah.
And is that even what you want to do?
Yeah.
Because you have to ask the question. If they don't want to move in that direction, you're just beating your head against the wall because they're not going to change.
No, I agree with
And
you
that's the most
100%.
important part of that.
I agree with you
So
100%.
it's got to be a communication both ways, both directions, an understanding and a clear direction. Because I think that a lot of times we don't give that clear direction or we don't give a timeline. I need you to do X by Y and Z time frame so they understand that, okay, you have a deadline. Because you just have to tell them, oh, this is what your project is, go do it. They're going to finish it whenever they feel like finishing it. Some people, of course, are going to take the initiative and get it done quickly, but you have the other ones that are just going to do it as they do.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's the thing that I feel that we as managers don't do well enough. And I think, like I said, your company is teaching that to managers and companies to show them that you have to continue to foster the relationships, whatever they may be, whatever level that person is at.
Sure. Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you 100%. And it's a balancing act about making sure that you're not focusing on the company, but you're also focusing on people. And that may mean, look, if I'm working with you, Derek, and I know the direction of your career of your career desires, what you're passionate about, and where the industry is going, means that you're going to need to leave and go somewhere else. If you're a really good manager in a really good company, you're going to help them do that. Now, people think that's
Yes.
crazy, but the truth of the matter is, if I help you, you're going to help me. And
Yes.
because I've transitioned you to where you need to go and want to go, you're going to tell lots of people that we're a great company to work for. And I'm going to get the pick of the lot when it comes to recruiting because you're my PR campaign, right? And so I think that a lot of companies worry, what if that means people leave? And my bigger response to them is, if you don't grow them and they stay, that should be that should be your concern. What if I don't grow my people and they stay, right? That means your company's going to die. It's going to lose relevance and fast, right? So you don't have a choice. Grow them every day, and if they leave, you at least have bench strength with the ones that stay, and they're gonna send great people your way because they valued what you did for them, and that will only come back and help you. So you got to think about it that way.
Exactly. Word of mouth is the key to everything, like you talked about in the very beginning, is they can kill your company or they can get you the right people in front of you because they're like, I want my friend to work with you. I want my cousin to work with you. I want my best friend to work with you because I want to work together with them and us build each other up. And that's the big thing that I think we all need to focus on is that we're in a different dynamics that we need to focus on that aspect of it instead of just go do your job
Yeah.
every day and be there. And I need you to clock in and clock out at this time, and this is what you have to do. So I totally agree with this whole philosophy of fostering the positive and sharing the ideas and making sure that there's understanding is very important. So as we've gone through this impact of HR recruiting strategies, thinking outside the box, trying to figure out what will build the culture without really making it stand out. I think we need to, like you said, reimagine employee branding. You talked about that already. And I think that's really important. And how can HR leaders make sure they're not just meeting with the staff and or the new employee, but how are they anticipating their growth and their performance to make sure, like we talked about earlier, is educating them and making sure we're having those conversations. How are we evolving those HR recruiters to understand that philosophy, or are we even doing that right now?
Wow. I'm disappointed with most HR recruiting, and with recruiting in general. Recruiting used to be about relationships, and somewhere along the line, it became about speed. And so what you end up having is you have most companies that dish out roles to multiple recruiters, and whoever gets them the job first wins, right? And the problem with that is it's speed over quality. And so I'll give you a good example of what I mean. When we have two companies, Performance Point, and we have a recruiting firm called Aspire Talent Advisory, and Aspire does really a white glove service for our clients, right? So we'll work with you to make sure that the job is defined really, really well. A good profile, good job description. We'll work with you on job ads and job postings. But here's what's interesting. We actually make sure your culture is relevant in those job ads and postings. How many job postings do you look up internally from a company or by a recruiter that are so dry and just you look at it, you don't even want the job, right? I mean, so people should really get a feel for what it looks like, it feels like to work there, right? And then we'll actually do video ads. Now, another thing we'll do is we'll run everything through filters to determine whether or not the language turns people off. So if we're turning women off,
Great.
we're losing a significant portion of potential candidates, and we don't want to do that. So we run it through filters to make sure that we have language that attracts everybody. Then we actually do resume screenings, but we don't do it through AI. We actually do it by truly determining what the core standards are for this job, and we actually look at the resumes, right? Because we think a lot of the AI stuff has become overused and impersonal, and we use AI to find people and things like that. But AI, this is a true story. I was working with a manager who said we can't find great people, and I said, really? And they said, yeah, nobody's coming through. And I said, so okay, let's take a look at some folks that maybe would be good. And we did a test. I had them look at resumes and determine who would be great for this job based on what they know the success records are, right?
Yeah.
Put it through AI, and they were all turned down. So we're saying
Really?
there's a desert of talent. The desert of talent, I would argue the desert of talent is largely because people are abusing AI. They're not using it as a resource, they're using it as the source. And that is a problem when AI takes over and we lose our judgment, right? So I think, so we actually screen them, but we have clear standards. Then we run people through a telephone screen that is structured. Then we run them through a true behavioral interview, the way it's supposed to be done, not the way most people do it today, which is poorly done. All right? Once that's done, if they still cut the mustard, we run them through a selection test that has proven to have evidence for validity to be used for selection, legally defensible, right? And once we know who the top candidates are, then we'll give them to our client to use. Now, here's the interesting thing. We give those candidates to the client, we give them the results of all the work we've done, and we give them an interview that's structured for them to use.
Right.
Once they've decided who they're going to hire, we then give them a development plan for that person, so on day one that person can start to grow. And we do 30, 60, 90-day check-ins to make sure that they're successful. And if there's a problem, we can address it and fix it. And if they're a leader, we'll do a team assimilation process so that they get off on the right foot with their new team and there are no problems from the start. Now, how many companies do you know are doing all of that?
Honestly, very few, if any, because I think so many people have relied on AI to the point where, and that's where I always say AI doesn't know someone's personality. And going back to your initial about the actual post, you have this cookie cutter post that they HR sends you that is like, well, what is this? I need more information, and I have to speak to the manager and get what culture are you looking for? What type of personality are you looking for? What type of individual that will set you on fire, that does this job right now, that you want a specific model of standing next to that person?
Yeah.
Because if I have that information, when I'm speaking to someone, I can ask the right question. As like you said, going through your process and making sure that everything's done the way it is, that you get the right person.
Yeah.
And you have done all the due diligence, and you know that that person that you put in front of your client is the right exact person because you know the job, you know what it's going through. Because I can't tell you how many managers I've spoken to, and I'm like, I need this person yesterday. I said, okay, but what you sent me is a standard template of government contracts that is not going to give me what you really truly want. It will give you the skill sets, which is great. I can find plenty of people skill sets. That's fine. But if they come in and they don't mesh with the team, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to help you. It's going to make things worse for you.
Well, you know what? We're not filling a slot. We're not. We're not just picking bodies. We're making
Correct.
a hiring decision. Now, I think this is really important. We're making a hiring decision that's going to lead to either more turnover, a lack of morale, reduction in productivity, and a bunch of other negative factors, or it's going to lead to increased retention, more productivity, increased satisfaction, more engagement, right? And so, and especially if it's a critical position,
Correct.
I take that very seriously, right? So I think we got to remember we're making a decision that has real impact. We're also asking the candidates to make a decision about us that has real impact on them and on their lives. We should create a process that allows both parties to make a good decision. We have a phrase in this business which is good information leads to good decision making, right? So we should create a way
Correct.
where we're sharing enough good information for both parties to make a great decision, right? That's what selection process is really about. And then I'm going to add one more
Correct.
thing, which is once you bring them on, are you creating an experience, right? So you looked at my values earlier. I showed them to you: collaborative, above and beyond, right-minded, and empathy. When
Correct.
someone starts, what am I doing that demonstrates those things? What am I doing that creates an experience that says we go above and beyond, right?
Correct.
I think companies need to think about that because we tell them who we are, and when they start, we give them a dramatically different experience. And that difference creates turnover. So you need to find a way to emulate your culture early on and make sure you create experience in the onboarding process.
And I agree with that. You have to be very focused on that because those are the things that will make or break the situation. So
Yeah.
it's very important in that aspect of it. So going on to what are practical steps that companies are taking to keep their top talent and not lose their top talent?
Wow. The very first thing, I'll tell you a couple things that I think companies are doing. One, really good companies are not trying to do a lot of the engagement work themselves. Right? You do engagement surveys, things like that. I always talk to clients about this, not clients, but prospects about this, and it blows my mind. Who's doing your engagement survey? Oh, we do it ourselves. We get great scores. And I was, well, of course you do. What do you mean, of course we do? Not everybody gets great scores. We're getting great scores. But yeah, but you're doing the survey yourself. Yeah? Well, okay, so listen, if I work for you and I know the data is going back to you, I'm not going to tell you anything bad because I'm not going to get in trouble for sharing my honest opinion with you, right? And whenever we've had people stop doing it themselves and start doing it with us or another third party, we've watched their numbers drop because all of a sudden their employees can tell the truth. In fact, it blows my mind. Why are you spending the money on software and staffing to do a survey that gives you bad information, right? But people do it every day. So the best companies outsource things that should be confidential to a third party. That's the first thing they do. The second thing I think that they do is that they truly action plan and do follow-up. I'm amazed how many companies will spend a lot of money on things like a listening process for their employees, survey tools, all this, and they get the results and they do nothing with them, right? They spend 80, 90% of the dollar, right, on the survey and virtually nothing on the follow-up. You need to reverse that. I literally just had a conversation with a client that did a survey, and I said, and they want to do multiple pulse surveys. They want to do them every quarter. And I'm a big pulse survey kind of guy. I love them, right? I think they're better than doing the big survey all the time because people get survey fatigue.
Right.
But I said to them, I begged them, I said, please don't do another pulse survey. And they said, why? I said, because you're not moving the needle. Look at these pulse surveys. They're the same, and it's the same issue. You need to do something about it, right? And here's what I would suggest that you do. Take these actions, do these things, right? And we put out a plan for them, and they're working through that right now. And the whole point was, spend the money you do on pulse surveys on an intervention, right? You need to do this. And so sometimes focus and less is more is better than doing a lot. And I would argue that I think the best HR teams today are balancing things out. So, and what do I mean by that? HR traditionally has been risk averse and legally driven because it was an outgrowth of the lawyers. Okay, and then it became personnel and then HR, and they didn't have the legal stuff as much anymore because that was somewhere else, right? So, and they helped with it. But you know what they focused on? Cost, efficiency. And so here's a good example. I'm going to buy a catalog of online learning and make it available to all my employees. It's cheaper. I'm spending pennies on the dollar compared to what I was spending for. I mean, I can train all my employees. Each employee can get trained for less than $1, right? You know, it's whatever the rationale is. And they sell it to senior leadership. And then you go visit that after a year and you find out that less than 3% of your employees are using the online learning. And if you actually talk to the people that are using the online learning, you find out that most of them play it in the background and don't pay attention. And if there is a test or a quiz, most of the assessments have a ding or some signal that says the test is coming and they're reviewing some things. So that's the only thing they listen to pass the test. And in many cases, the test can be taken more than once. They take it, they get the right answers, they take it again, they fill it in, they pass, they get certified or whatever it is, but they don't know it, right? Why are we spending all this money
Not at all.
when people aren't using it and the ones that are using it aren't getting much out of it? We are not effective at all, right? So the great HR groups are starting to rethink their approach. And they're starting to say to themselves, less is more. Let's do it well. Let's really engage people. Let's make a difference, right? It's not all about what's in the budget. It's about how we're impacting the business. Let's make sure we're really impacting the business. And I think that is what a great HR department does. And you see it periodically, but not as often as you'd like.
No, I agree. So I have one final question for you. So if you had to bet, what would be the number one expectation from the top talent in 2020, 2030?
Wow.
I'm putting you on the spot now.
I think in 2030, the top expectation is really is going to be Um, it's survival, right? I said it to you, I think by 2030 you're going to see the skill sets be relevant for even less time, right? So, I think it really is going to be about what are you going to do for me that allows me to survive the rest of my working years? What are you doing for me that makes sure that I'm competitive even though I'm not going to spend my life here? If I'm here for 1 year, how am I more competitive? If I'm here for 2.5 years, how am I more competitive? It really is going to be people being their own agent. And it's going to be less about pay me all the money right now and more about making sure that I can get to the next stage, right? Next place. And then I'm competitive. I honestly think that's really what it's going to boil down to. And employees are going to go, forget it. I'm not talking to you. I don't care what brand name you are. I don't care who you think you are. Company A was brand name. They're not even around anymore. You guys are like a flash in the pan. You come and go, right? Company relevance has changed. We used to have companies that were around forever. Now they come into play, they're hot for 10 years, and they're gone. Employees aren't going to care about all that stuff anymore. They care about their own survival. And they know that nobody else does. And so how are you helping them with that? I think that's what it's going to boil down to.
I agree. I think you nailed it right on top of it perfectly. And from the very beginning, like you said, education is going to be the primary thing, and that they can go to any company anywhere they want because it's like I have the skill set. They're going to need me over there, and I'm going to go. And that's going to be the primary point that I think that if employees realize that and can stay ahead of the game, they're going to be top talents, and they're going to be the ones that we want to do whatever we can, bend over backwards to try to keep them. Like you said, performance, giving them the education, showing them that we are there to make sure that they continue to get that education, kind of give them that roadmap and hold them to that roadmap, checking in with them from time to make sure that they understand the roadmap. Because so many times you're like, oh, there's a roadmap. All right, great, let's get going. And then you get down the road and you're like, oh, but no one checked in on me and said, where are you? What's happening? Where are you at? Is everything going okay? Do you have any questions? And I think that's the part that people don't understand is like, yeah, you gave them a roadmap, but then there was no follow up, there was no follow through. So they weren't doing anything. They didn't think because they knew you weren't checking in with them and making sure they were moving in the right direction. They're like, okay, I'll just continue to work on it. Oh, I got hung up. I don't know who to ask, so I'll just kind of sit here and kind of be idle. But if they see a manager coming and going, hey, where are you on your roadmap today? I'm going to check in with you in 2 weeks and go make sure you're okay again because you got hung up here. I don't want to wait another month and then go, oh, you're still hung up. Okay. Or say, hey, if you get hung up, come see me. Get on my calendar or, stop by the office and we'll talk about it. And have that open door with them, I think is very important as well. And that's the one thing that I think we don't do enough because as a manager, we're so busy managing others and managing projects and holding other people accountable, they feel like they don't want to interrupt your schedule.
Well,
And that's part of it as well.
I think that's true. I also think managers, a lot of managers, a lot of people should be leaders rather than managers. And if you are a leader,
Mhm.
you recognize that the bench strength of your people and the vision that you provide is probably all that you need, right? That you don't need to manage your people because if you lead them, they're probably going to be ahead of you, right? And so,
100%.
I think that we need more leaders in the workplace and that are people driven and recognize that if I do right with the people, they're going to help the business thrive. It is not a competition. Productivity and results versus people. It's people leading to results. If you're a great leader,
Yes.
you understand that and you understand how to make that happen. How do I work with people to create those results? And that's a whole different ball game. And
Yep.
I think we need more of that, and we just don't have enough.
Well, I saw on your website something that's to your left that I would like to talk a little bit about,
This one,
if you have time.
this.
Yes.
All right, you got it. You got it.
Yes. So we'll
That's
finish up with you talking about that, and then we'll
sure.
close out the podcast. How about that?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. Well, that's called cultivating culture, and it's our process. It's a proprietary process that we work with clients on how to either, if they don't have a culture, it's how do you define it from the outside in? How do you define it in a way that helps you keep your brand promise for your customers, but creates a great environment for your employees, right? Then what we do is we actually help them audit their company and look at what supports their culture and what doesn't support their culture. It's important because we think about culture being people-oriented, but we define it as simply a shared way of doing things. That includes processes, SOPs, systems, structures, right? Everything you do needs to support your culture, not just asking your people to live by it. Because if you ask your people to live by it, but you have systems that hinder their ability to do it, you're never going to have that culture. So auditing it out and making sure that you understand what you need to change in your company. Then what we do is we actually help you educate your employees, build culture champions, people who live the culture, right? And we have it in e-learning, we'll do in-house training, we do train the trainer and licensing, and we will provide you with custom culture workouts that you can use that are 5-10 minutes in any meeting to support and really promote your culture. We have culture conversation starters that you can use as you're walking down the hallway to remind people about cultural things. We have an AI culture coach that listens to your meetings and then gives you feedback after your meetings on how well you're living up to your culture and where you can do a better job. And then we have other things that we can do as well, aside from that. But this is a train the trainer box, and it has all the tools and resources in it for trainers to use in their own companies. It's awesome. It is the most comprehensive approach out there. I think the best approach, and it offers more value. I mean, I know companies that charge a lot for less. And we actually provide really good value. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about this. Comes out August 25th, and it's called Never Delegate Again.
Okay.
Uncover the secret to growing your company, your people, and yourself. It is all about changing from delegation as an efficiency approach or dumping things off of your desk onto somebody else's desk, which we've all seen, to every time you make a decision about delegation, it should be a growth decision. And how do you do that? What does that look like? And it's about, if you want to scale your business, scale your people. And we have a program, just like the culture program, that accompanies the book as well. So, you want to thrive
Yes.
and you want to grow. And that's really where our focus is, helping companies and individuals thrive and grow. That's where we do. So, there you go.
Well, that's amazing. From what I saw on your website and all that you shared with us today has been, very positive and, very great insight and truly um, positive for the future. And I think y'all really bring a lot to the table, not just for the company itself, but I think for the staffing portion of your company, sister company, or whatever you want to define that. I forget the name, I apologize.
That's all right.
But I think that's the most important thing is using those tools and having, yes, using AI tools to a point, but also bringing the human factor still into the recruiting process and making sure that they are getting the right candidates and be able to bring those tools together. And like you said, your four-pronged approach to doing that is very positive.
Thank you.
So I do appreciate that. And it was a great insight and the books and all those other things you can bring toward a manager themselves, and hopefully change them from a manager to a leader, like you're talking about, is very important because, standing side by side with your employees to be able to show them the right way to do things, and they will stand next to you when you need their assistance to get something done. And
Yeah,
that's the
thank you.
true value of a leader, and make sure that things get done. And they'll want to stay next to you and want to stay with the company because they believe in the leader that's next to them, making sure that things are being done properly, they're following the SOPs and all those processes that are in place for the company to be successful.
Yeah, thank you. In the
So,
end,
Brad
we're
Fetterman,
building relationships,
go
right?
ahead.
That's what matters. Yeah, I was saying, in the end, we're
Yes,
building relationships. We've got to remember we're people. Technology should aid us, but it can't separate us. And if it does, then we're doing the wrong thing. So,
exactly. Well, Brad Fetterman, thank you for your time, your Performance Point LLC. Please check them out. If you're a person looking for a job or a company that needs to be led, or if you learn how to be in a next level performance for their staff, please check out Brad and his company so that everybody can be successful out there. And I appreciate your time, Brad. It was
thank you.
very insightful today. Thank you.
Thank you.